action.
All right, I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. Most of you already know me. For those of you who don't, my name is Jonathan McMurtry. We'll be talking about somebody much more interesting than myself today. Did you know that one of the most famous artists in history was also credited with designing the first parachute, tank, and even helicopter hundreds of years before the Wright brothers ever flew their first plane? Today, I'm going to be talking about Leonardo da Vinci. I've always been inspired by him and been a fan of his art since I first learned about him in about 5th or 6th grade. And today I'll be talking about his life story, his childhood, his journey to becoming the great man we consider him today. Now, Leonardo da Vinci was probably the most brilliant scientist and artist history has ever known, and he definitely epitomized the term Renaissance man. Now, according to an article in the Express by William Hartston called 10 Things You Did Not Know About Leo, Leonardo da Vinci was born outside of a small town called Vinci in April 15, 1452. He's the illegitimate son of a peasant woman who was even a slave at one point named Caterina, and his father was a lawyer and notary named Messer Piero da Vinci. Now, Leonardo's full name was Leonardo Messer Piero da Vinci, which means Leonardo, son of Messer Piero of Vinci. Now, he started out life with his mother and stepfather until about the age of 5. He went on to move to his uncle and dad's estate, where he received informal training on reading, writing, math. And his uncle and dad noticed that he had a knack for art, so they decided to enroll him into the apprenticeship under the greatest artist of his time, Verrocchio. Now, while he was there, he was surrounded by the greatest artists and intellectuals. This is where he absorbed many of his techniques and skills that he uses in all of his paintings, and probably where he became such an open mind and a great thinker. Now, in 1472, Leonardo da Vinci qualified as a master under the Guild of St. Luke. The Guild of St. Luke was a guild of the greatest medical doctors and artists of his time. It'd be the equivalent of receiving a degree from Harvard or Yale, or any Ivy League school. So obviously his father was very impressed and proud of his son and bought him his own studio. There he received his first 2 commissions, but sadly he never finished them, which is not uncommon for Leonardo da Vinci. Maybe part of the reason was the Duke of Milan offered him a job, which he moved to Milan and worked on his one of his most famous works, The Last Supper. Now, I'm sure most of you know about the Last Supper. It's the biblical scene of Jesus and his 12 disciples eating the Last Supper. Sadly, most of it is not original today. It's been destroyed by wars, environmental factors, and people defacing it, but it's been meticulously restored. Now, once he was done with the Last Supper in 1459, he had to flee Milan because the Second Italian War broke out. He went back to Florence and eventually to Venice. While he was there in the early 1500s, he started work on his most famous art piece, the Mona Lisa. Now, according to an article out of Science Illustrated by Overby Stein called The Woman Behind the Enigmatic Smile, there's a lot of mystery surrounding the Mona Lisa. Some experts think it was a portrait of a rich merchant's wife named Francesco Giocondo. Many other experts think that it was just a woman out of Leonardo da Vinci's imagination. And many more think that it was actually a self-portrait of Leonardo da Vinci as a woman. Now, we don't know which of these 3 is true. We probably never will. Later, after he finished his work on the Mona Lisa, the King of France, King Francis I, recaptured Milan and offered Leonardo to come back. Leonardo accepted, and he was the official artist, scientist, and engineer for King Francis I. King Francis gave him a large house called Clos Lucé, which sadly he only lived about 4 more years in before he died. We don't know exactly what happened, but it's probably from natural causes. And he knew it was coming because he wrote a will about 2 months before he actually died. Now, Leonardo never had a wife or children or anybody to inherit his fortune. So he gave it to his apprentice at the time and friend that lived with him in close crusade. We never knew about his personal life, really. It's always been a mystery. Some people think he was celibate. Some people think he was homosexual. He even had a sodomy charge brought against him while he was under Verrocchio's apprenticeship, but it was later dropped because they couldn't prove anything. Now, after he died, the king put on a great funeral procession, which is what Leonardo da Vinci wanted to happen. And he was later buried outside of the palace church of St. Florentine. But during the French Revolution, the palace church was bombed, and we are not able to find the exact gravesite of Leonardo da Vinci to this day. Now, today I've discussed the life story, the childhood, the journey of Leonardo da Vinci and how he became the great man we consider him today. And as you can see from this information, Da Vinci was a brilliant man, and the world is still benefiting from his genius today. And I'd like to thank you all again for being here. All right. Was that good?
That was
Yeah.
great.